Hello and welcome. Today we are diving into the evolving relationship between the European Union and the United Kingdom after Brexit. The UK's departure from the EU marked a major shift in Europe's political and economic landscape, and the impacts of that change are still unfolding. And in this video, we'll explore how trade, travel, and security cooperation between the EU and the UK have changed since Brexit and what these changes mean for both sides. So let's start with trade. Brexit has fundamentally altered the way the UK and the EU conduct business with each other. The UK officially left the EU single market and customs union on January 1st in 2021, which meant that the previous frictionless trade between the two entities came to an end. The main framework governing EU-UK trade is the Trade and Cooperation Agreement, or TCA, which came into effect on January 1st in 2021. And this agreement allows for tariff-free and quota-free trade in goods, but it does not eliminate all barriers. The deal includes provisions on goods and services, but the customs and regulatory checks have led to increased paperwork and delays at borders. For businesses, the TCA means they still have access to the EU market, but with additional requirements such as customs declarations and rules of origin checks. And this has led to increased costs and logistical challenges, particularly for industries that rely on just-in-time supply chains such as automotive and food industries. And certain sectors have felt the impact more acutely. For example, the fishing industry, which was quite a prominent issue during the Brexit negotiations, has faced challenges due to no fishing quotas and access restrictions. And meanwhile, the financial services sector, which is a significant part of the UK economy, has had to adapt to a new regulatory environment, losing its previous passporting rights that allowed it to operate seamlessly across the EU. And one of the most complex aspects of post-Brexit trade is the Northern Ireland Protocol. This arrangement keeps Northern Ireland in the EU single market for goods, but it also introduces a de facto customs border in the Irish Sea between Northern Ireland and Great Britain. And this has led to disruptions and political tensions as businesses face checks and controls on goods moving between the two parts of the UK. The protocol is a compromise to avoid a hard border on the island of Ireland, but it has been a source of contention and calls for adjustments from both the UK and EU sides. Moving on to travel and mobility, Brexit has brought significant changes to how people move between the UK and the EU. One of the most visible changes is the new visa requirements for UK and EU citizens. UK citizens now need a visa for stays longer than 90 days in any 180-day period for most EU countries, which can be a major shift for those used to unrestricted travel. Conversely, EU citizens visiting the UK for short stays can enter without a visa, but those planning to work or study need to comply with UK immigration rules. For tourists, these changes mean more planning and potentially higher costs for travel. Business travelers also face new challenges, including visa applications and increased paperwork for short-term work. And this has impacted sectors reliant on frequent travel, such as academia, entertainment, and international business, of course. Driving between the UK and EU also requires more documentation. UK drivers need an international driving permit to drive in many EU countries, and insurance requirements have become more stringent. This adds to the administrative burden and costs for those traveling by car. At airports and other entry points, the use of e-gates for UK travelers has been restricted. This has led to longer waiting times at border controls and increased scrutiny of travelers' documents. And finally, let's talk about security and law enforcement. Cooperation in these areas was a critical part of the EU-UK relationship before Brexit, and it's essential for both sides to maintain effective collaboration post-Brexit. One of the significant impacts of Brexit is the change in law enforcement and judicial cooperation. Before Brexit, the UK was part of several EU-wide schemes, such as the European Arrest Warrant and the Schengen Information System. Post-Brexit, the UK is no longer part of these systems, which has indeed affected cross-border policing and criminal justice. The UK and EU have established new mechanisms for cooperation, including the so-called UK-EU Security Partnership, which aims to address some of the gaps left by Brexit. And this partnership covers areas such as extradition, data sharing, and joint efforts against organized crime and terrorism. However, the new arrangements are not as comprehensive as the previous systems and have led to some concerns about potential delays and inefficiencies in tackling cross-border crime. Intelligence sharing is another critical area. The UK and EU continue to exchange information on security threats, but the lack of the formal mechanisms like the SIS means that this cooperation is less seamless than before. Both sides have committed to maintaining strong intelligence ties, but challenges remain in ensuring that the flow of information remains effective and timely. And counterterrorism cooperation remains a priority too. The UK and the EU have pledged to work together to combat terrorism, share best practices, and coordinate responses to threats. Joint efforts in this area are crucial for ensuring the safety and security of citizens on both sides. Looking ahead, the future of EU-UK relations will be shaped by ongoing negotiations and evolving geopolitical dynamics. Both sides are likely to continue negotiating adjustments to the current agreements, especially in areas where challenges have arisen. But it doesn't mean renegotiating the TCA, I just want to say that. The EU and the UK have already started discussions on issues like the Northern Ireland Protocol, you know that, with the Windsor framework, and further talks are expected to address emerging concerns and refine existing arrangements. And global events and changes in international relations will also play a role here. For example, the evolving geopolitical landscape, economic shifts, and new global challenges like climate change and cybersecurity may influence the nature of EU-UK cooperation. Both sides will need to navigate these changes while managing their bilateral relationship. Public opinion and political dynamics within the UK and the EU will also impact future relations. Both governments need to balance domestic priorities with the need for effective international cooperation. Changes in political leadership, public sentiment, and national interests will likely influence the direction of EU-UK relations. In conclusion, Brexit has brought significant changes to EU-UK relations in the areas of trade, travel, and security cooperation. While the new frameworks and agreements have helped manage the transition, challenges remain, and both sides will need to work together to address these issues and adapt to the evolving landscape. So thank you for watching, and if you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content on current affairs and international relations regarding the EU. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how EU-UK relations are shaping up, of course, so leave your comments below. And the next video is right here in the end screen.